The desert morning was quiet, the kind of silence that carried both peace and warning. Jack Rourke rode his horse through the canyon, the sun still low enough to throw long shadows across the sand. He was used to solitude, used to the language of wind, hoofbeats, and distant hawks, but that morning, something felt different. As he guided his horse past a cluster of mesquite trees, a faint sound reached him. A whisper, maybe a breath, or a sob. He pulled the reins and dismounted, his boots sinking softly into the dust. Then he saw movement. Behind a fallen log, someone crouched, trembling. He took one slow step forward. "Easy, don't move," came a voice, sharp but fragile. Jack froze where he stood. The figure lifted her head, a young Apache woman, her face streaked with dirt, her hands trembling as she held a small knife pointed toward him. Her dark eyes, wild and bright, darted between him and the open land behind. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said softly. "You're safe now." His voice carried something steady, something that reached past her fear. The knife wavered, then dropped slightly. The desert wind brushed between them, a thin breath of trust forming out of nowhere. He saw she was shaking, not from anger, but from exhaustion. Her name was Ayanna. She had fled through the night, chased by men she called, the ones with white coats and silver trucks. Her village had been threatened after refusing to sell land to an oil company. They'd come under the pretense of talks, but when the men left, a family was missing. She escaped only because her grandmother pushed her out a back door and told her to run. Jack listened silently as she spoke, her words halting, her voice cracked. He had seen this kind of greed before, men in suits who thought dirt was just money waiting to be pulled from the ground. He brought her back to his ranch, where the world grew quiet again. She refused food at first, too wary to eat. But when he set a bowl of stew and water by the fire and walked away, she eventually reached for it. That night, she slept curled up by the window, too afraid to close her eyes. Jack didn't sleep either. He watched the stars fade behind the coming dawn, wondering what he'd just brought into his life. Ayanna's presence stirred something in him, protection, yes, but also guilt. His family's ranch had been built on Apache land generations ago. Now, one of them was under his roof, hunted by the same kind of power his ancestors had profited from. By the third day, her fear had dulled into quiet determination. She helped mend the fences, moved with care, and kept her eyes always on the horizon. Jack began to understand her silence. It wasn't shyness, it was survival. But peace never lasts long in the desert. Late one evening, while checking the water troughs, Jack saw the dust rising in the distance, 2 trucks, speeding across the valley. He rushed back to the ranch. "They found you," he said. Ayanna stiffened, her eyes flashing with the memory of fire. "Go," he urged. "Take Dusty and head toward the ridge. I'll stall them." She shook her head. "No," she whispered. "They'll kill you." Before he could reply, the rumble of engines grew louder. Jack grabbed his rifle and stood by the fence line. The truck stopped 100 yards away. 3 men stepped out, one in a clean suit, looking completely out of place. "Morning, Mr. Rourke," the man said with a polished smile. "We're looking for someone. Apache girl, about 20. Company property." Jack's stomach turned at those words. Property. He kept his voice even. "Ain't seen anyone like that." The man's smile faded, replaced by something colder. "Be careful who you lie to, rancher." When the men turned their backs, Jack acted fast. He cut the reins to Ayanna's horse and whispered, "Go. Now." She hesitated, eyes meeting his one last time. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Jack swallowed hard. "Because I should have done it a long time ago." She nodded, tears glimmering in her dark eyes, and rode off into the rising light. The trucks roared to life moments later, but she was already a shadow slipping through the canyons. Jack stood his ground as they shouted threats, but his heart was steady. Hours later, when the dust had settled and silence returned, he found something left behind by the fire, a small string of beads, woven with red and white stones. Ayanna's. He held it in his calloused hand, feeling the weight of her courage. Somewhere beyond the horizon, she was free. He looked toward the canyon and whispered into the wind, "You're safe now." The desert carried his words away, like a promise the land itself had waited generations to hear.